The case.
Hello, welcome to the first ever Article Asylum movie commentary. Today we're doing Man of Steel. I'm Keifer Wynn, and I'm joined by
Ryan Wall. We're here to just provide every bit of commentary we can to this film. We hope it's insightful and helpful and just all around beneficial to you in being able to enjoy the movie, whether you loved it before or, which is probably the case if you're watching commentary on it, but there are holdouts, and we're not aiming to change anybody's mind, but if it happens, it happens.
a great point. Ryan, you want to tell us exactly where we're starting so people that are watching it with us? By the way, you should definitely watch it with us during the commentary. That will be fun. Tell us where we're starting.
We are at the 2-second mark on the Blu-ray version of it. I don't know if there's any subtle differences between the versions, but 2-second mark on the Blu-ray. We're going to count down from 3, and on 1, we're going to hit play. And then from there, if you're doing the same thing, you can follow along and see what we're seeing at the same time. All right. So 3, 2, 1. Kudos to Warner Brothers for these logos, given that Kryptonian feel.
It's that alien idea that really serves us so well throughout the entire movie. I don't want to jump ahead too far, but
yeah,
Snyder does a great job with showing us an alien world
and a culture, using subtle cues like the glyph marks we're seeing now on these opening logos. There actually is a Kryptonian language that they made for this film that doesn't really get used, but it's there to add credibility to the background of Krypton. I really love that bit of information.
And this opening, this first ever DCEU movies opening, just strikes me as epic. It has a feel of largeness to it that I don't think other comic book universes have really developed yet. And Snyder manages to do this from the very first second of Man of Steel. So
we're witnessing the birth here of not only Kal-El, aka Superman. We're witnessing the birth of a new franchise, and I think that's great.
Also, this geo material is really cool. Like, I'm really impressed with how it works and how Snyder manages to bring it to life.
Yeah, I'm going to be mentioning at least 2 other points later on in the movie that I think it's served really well. But here it just does a good job of showcasing Kryptonians are indeed advanced and different. They don't have like flat projection displays or holograms.
The birth of the DCEU superhero, the model, like Man of Steel Answer says, for every other hero in the entire universe. I'm excited to see this movie again. Like, every time I see it, I discover something new.
Yeah, and just the fact that they created creatures for just a little establishing shot of Krypton shows the level of detail they put into this.
I'm not going to mention any names, but just in the first 30 minutes of Krypton, we get an entire alien culture and history that doesn't show up in movies supposedly about space and other universes and galaxies. So.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Which is a great film in its own right.
We both love both of them.
But it's different. It's just different. Yeah. And their clothing is rad. Just saying.
Yes. And I like the fact that they're explaining here, if you didn't catch it the first time you watched the film, they're explaining here why they can't simply evacuate the planet. There's something tying them to Krypton. It's their culture, it's their way of life that ensures that they would not be able to succeed on a different planet. So that's what Jor-El is pointing out right here.
Yeah, that and they're unsure of the exact time frame of when this calamity is coming. They don't know if it's in 5 minutes or 5 days, you know.
Exactly. So. Also, Michael Shannon's first appearance is fantastic. He's no cardboard cutout. He's menacing, he's cruel, but he's also a man driven by love of his people.
And somewhat relatable, honestly. He's they're displaying his cruelty right now, but you get a sense of history between him and Jor-El, and he and Russell Crowe just play it off so well.
Great chemistry.
Yeah. And actually, Russell Crowe Michael Shannon was talking about Russell Crowe, and he said he was kind of nervous to work with him, and they channeled a mentor to mentee relationship between the two of them.
That's a good point.
And I love that because that's really their acting relationship, and that's really cool. They were able to work that nuance into their characters.
Also, incredibly prophetic line from Jor-El there. I will honor you, the man you were, not the monster you've become. Because, in BVS, he will actually become a monster.
Literally.
And Cal will have to kill him.
Again. Zod 2, or Zod 0, Superman 2. Ironically, the movie Zod was first killed in.
Alien combat is always fun.
It also shows how equal they are on par because they're using firearms on each other. And notice that on Krypton, they all seem kind of grounded, pretty tame, And I think that plays a lot into the
this scene right here. He's looking out over Zod's rebellion, and it's an incredible feat of cinematography to create this entire alien world and have this battle raging around him. It looks really good.
It does. It's similar in some respects to the shot of Batman watching Wonder Woman and Superman engaging with Doomsday, and that it's an over-the-shoulder view of action from somebody that's just trying to take in what's going on. And I like that there's that kind of echo later on. And I think Jor-El's a little more in his depth here than Batman was in that case.
Batman was clearly outclassed.
But he still has this expression of, whoa,
This four-winged creature, I think it's called a Haraka or whatever, is very lovingly rendered. Like it'd be very easy to do a sloppy version just because it's so quick. It only has 30 minutes here on Krypton, but man, it looks good.
Yeah, it really does, and you can see the carving of Krypton where they just really methodically stripped this place bare of its natural resources, with no intention of replenishing it at all.
It's actually one of the reasons Michael Shannon took the role. He thinks there's kind of a prophetic element to this, talking about a world that loses its natural resources and eventually becomes incapable of moving on or saving itself.
Yeah. And here, looking in the Genesis chamber, I'm reminded of the growing fields in the Matrix.
That's well said. That's not going to be the only Matrix callback that we see in this movie.
No. Speaking of Matrix, we have a codex. Mathematical terms abound, guys. But seriously though, it did remind me of the Matrix in terms of you have humans in pods being harvested by machines, and it goes a long way to show the kind of coldness of Kryptonian culture, and is really contrasted by the birth we just witnessed. And I like that Jor-El is not just your stereotypical scientist.
He's
really
got some beef to him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, this scene, he's just floating down towards his creature. It's just, again, I can't say enough good things about the cinematography here.
Yeah.
It looks real. It looks real. It looks realistic. It looks alien.
Yeah.
Snyder's done a fantastic job here. It doesn't just look like humanoids running around on an alternate Earth. It looks like an actual alien culture.
Yeah, and this is also shown in the vehicles that are chasing Jor-El here seem to reflect Kryptonian life forms in that their movements. They look almost beetle-like, insect-like.
Exactly right.
I really appreciate that because they could have just used typical sci-fi expectations of what a ship is, and they decided to go above and beyond for a prologue, And granted, the ships do show up later, so it's not totally without following what's going on here, but the work they've done for Krypton, perfect.
Now here we'll get a little bit of exposition about the world that Cal will be going to.
Yep. I do love this
seemingly intelligent population.
Yeah, but this is the crux of the movie here, where they're talking about how he'll be an outcast, how it might not be easy for him, even if he is invulnerable. And at least so far as human culture is concerned. And that is really the heart of this film, is exploring what it would be like to be that person.
That's a really great thought, Ryan. If you get this scene, I think you'll be able to appreciate the movie a little bit more if you didn't like it at first. Because he'll be wavering between these two extremes. He'll be a god or he'll be a freak for 2 movies, and only to the end of BVS does he really understand like his place within those 2 poles.
But don't be deceived, he does make a ton of progress in this film.
Yes, he does.
And we'll probably be pointing that out quite a bit. And that's another thing I want to say here. We'll probably be taking a lot of pot shots at the undue criticisms of this film. So, trigger warning. But really emotional send-off. I'm glad they took the time to make this work and make it believable that it's 2 parents putting their child in the hands of technology and really
human beings.
And human beings, yes, and just trusting that humanity will be able to not only raise their son, but value him enough not to destroy him, which they ended up losing that gamble, but
but humanity does at least, at the end of Batman v Superman, come to appreciate Superman in full. Right. They also love him at the end of Man of Steel, as the beginning of BVS shows, but the universal acceptance and veneration that Superman should have achieved from the very beginning is what happened at the end of BVS. So
right, and I think this goes a long way to explain how he can be a symbol of hope. And you don't get hope without despair first. Hope is meaningless if there's no challenge or threat to it.
Exactly. I think we've kind of confused hope with like happy feelings, when instead hope is a firm belief in goodness.
Yeah, it's a form of optimism that's not dependent on the current circumstances, but rather on an expectation that the future will be better. Which is really the embodiment of Jor-El's character.
And also great Kryptonian armoring sequence.
Yes. Let it be known that Jor-El was the first one to suit up and not Batman in this universe, and that's kind of neat too. We get a close up of someone else getting dressed other than Batman.
Jor-El with prep time is undefeated. I'm kidding.
Actually, he had prep time, so
yeah.
There's just a turkey in the oven right now.
Also, Feyor is a great character.
Yes, shallow in a way, but a good kind of shallow.
A good physical threat.
Yes, and I think she does spout off some, perhaps a little too on the nose with the philosophical dialogue, but I think it's she complements Zod better, because you can get away with a semi-shallow villain if alongside the main villain, a deeper one. Yeah. Can't get away with that if your main villain is the shallow one. Marvel.
Temptation here is just not to say anything and appreciate the dialogue that's going on. But again, the Kryptonians seem to suffer from the delusion that some bloodlines are more worthy than others, which is itself an addendum to the belief that society should determine who lives and who dies and who does what and who serves where.
Yeah.
So in fact, like, Zod is just a continuation of what's wrong with Krypton, which is again pointing to the genius of how Jor-El sees that he wouldn't work on a different planet because somehow he's invested in that same kind of philosophy. Sorry to ramble, but
well, he grew up in the culture, and I think Jor-El also recognizes that he's very much alone. There's not a lot of Jor-Els on Krypton. There's far more Zods on Krypton than there are Jor-Els, and I think that's evident in Zod's rebellion. He got quite a following.
He did. Like, even though he'll eventually be defeated, I think Jor-El is the one further outside of the mainstream than Zod is.
I agree. And It is interesting that they're both outside of the mainstream, though.
Yeah, they both are to some degree.
Yeah. I do like that Zod is... You see, he's pleading here with a friend, and that is adding a lot of depth here. There's a conflict between the two, but there's also a friendship and a respect there.
Which makes what Zod does later even more monstrous. Well, it does right now, actually.
Yeah.
Killing his friend.
And, a callback to this scene later on in the movie when he says there's not a day that goes by where this doesn't haunt him. He in a way misses Jor-El, even though they didn't see eye to eye on everything. He's realizing there, and he's selling it with his face, too. Michael Shannon's really selling the regret, the instant regret. But he knows his duty, and so the regret doesn't get in the way of his duty.
And I think this is something he's going to say again later in the film when he talks about everything I've done is for my people. He is going to justify any amount of genocide and cruelty because he believes that he's doing the right thing.
And what's interesting here is he knows that he's using bad means to good ends. He even says as much that, every act, no matter how terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows that he's a bit extreme, but that's who he is. It's bred into him. And I love that, too, is that Clark is the embodiment of Krypton and Earth. His goodness, his willingness to help people is just inherent in him. It's bred in him. But he also has the freedom and ability to choose. Like people on Earth. He can aspire to be something other than what he was born to be.
Also, I'm going to take us back off the philosophical a little bit to point out, again, Krypton looks great.
Yes. And
this scene right here.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did like that they enlarged Rao to be much larger than the sun, much closer at least to Krypton than the sun is to Earth.
Yes.
And we're quiet right now because just Michael Shannon's performance is so good, so captivating. It throws you off because he sells that rage really well. You can see it on his face and subtle head motions like that just, man, he sells it. I can't praise it enough.
And his rage against the kind of sedentary council is palpable, and it's, again, kind of understandable because they don't seem very
concerned
at all about the imminent destruction of their planet.
And they're so unconcerned, in fact, that they're sentencing them to reconditioning. It's not like... This is like rehab, guys. This is alien rehab. That's their sentence for these guys. And they're doing it on the eve of Doomsday, which, again, they don't know exactly when is coming, but...
But they've been just ignoring all of the signs, and they're just continuing on their daily lives with their same sorts of punishments. When in reality, they should be freaking out because their world is about to come to a very violent and fiery end.
Yeah. And in fact, if they had stopped to think about it, they'd realize that their criminals are going to be the only ones to live.
Also, the slave ship. This part is so cool. Again, just don't even listen to us right now. Just appreciate what Zack Snyder's doing with this shot.
Yeah.
The Phantom Zone is it's amazing.
I agree.
The alien technology is
so well defined.
Look at it just disappearing into the black hole. That's so well done.
Man, this is hands down one of the best prologues in a movie since Lord of the Rings.
Exactly. I think Snyder's done really well with Superman and Batman's origin stories. Even though Batman's was really, really short in BVS.
But it was stylized so perfectly that, we don't need it again. Even the general public knows exactly what happened to make Batman Batman. But he captures it in such a captivating way.
Oh, the destruction of Krypton. It's heartbreaking, but it's also beautiful in a way.
Yeah. And I love too. Notice when it does actually blow. When we see that shot from space, instead of an enormous Death Star style explosion, it's just kind of a dud. Much like Krypton itself, actually, and its fate. It's going out on both a bang and a whimper.
She's just watching her destruction with such calm and equanimity.
Peace, even.
Mm.
Peace, and here we are seeing the. See, it just barely breaks apart. But that's enough. That's enough to ruin Krypton, and I mean that's just amazing.
Oh, this shot! Can't say enough about it.
Out Nolan's Nolan. Snap zooms, big feature of this film.
Seem to have left the slow-mo down in favor of the snap zoom.
I like the snap zooms.
I do.
They add a lot of energy and adrenaline to the action. That helps to keep Superman inspirational on a tone level. You know, where it's just rolling.
I also love this music here.
Same here.
The theme.
Yeah, the Hans Zimmer's score is perfect. I have this album.
I also do.
And I'm still not done with it.
I'm gonna point out right here. Clark, not Superman at this point, is going to end up saving someone at the end of this scene because someone else saved him. Of course, he wasn't gonna die from that, but he gets to see part of the good of humanity, and that's gonna start making up this swirling picture of who humanity is. That's gonna eventually inform his decision to become a publicly powered superhero.
And while this guy's talking big out of one side of his mouth, he saves him, or at least thinks he's saving him in the other.
Yes.
You know? So even though he's harsh on Clark,
he has a good heart.
Yeah. You can see it there too, where he was eager to save them.
Yeah, just pointing out again to critics, this is Superman saving people.
Happens the first moment we're on Earth.
So let's just mark that down for one time. Superman saving multiple people.
Multiple, yep. About 9.
Looks about 9. Oh, this scene is on fire.
Yeah. Great effect there. Yeah, and you can tell they're kind of weirded out by the fact that this guy's just ripped off the door, he's on fire, and he's good.
This is the only time on a helipad that Superman does well, that I remember.
Even then, it's kind of a waiting.
Yeah.
Actually, he gets submerged and emerges from it. So,
well, that's true. Maybe he never wins on helipads.
So maybe this is his baptism. In a sense. But I just gotta say,
Henry Cavill's workout routine.
I don't do it, and it shows.
Yes, also the same for me.
But yeah, I love this scene. It's interesting that we get our first bit of Earth is about a calamity as well, but it's a calamity that Superman is making the best of, which immediately contrasts him to what we saw with other Kryptonians who were just,
Yeah, like his mother said, "Make a better world, Cal." And the first scene that we get of him is him doing his best in a fiery conflagration to make a better world somehow.
Yeah, and you see the lighting on the left side when he was in the water was very much Krypton, orangish and wild and fiery, and on the right it's blue, it's Earth. And then now we're full on Earth from here on out.
First flashback. I love interspersing the flashbacks with the main narrative. It really helps sell it to me. This X-ray scene was a little frightening to me first time.
Yeah, it shows that that's not always necessarily a gift, and it's not just selectively seeing through stuff. It's actual X-ray vision. You know, his sensory overload. It's believable.
He makes it. He has to learn, like right here, how to look for things specifically and not be overwhelmed. And I think that's something we can all kind of appreciate. Like in a sense, like Clark almost has something like ADHD.
Yeah, and I think also it's interesting here that he's this old and starting to get these powers. This is a new experience for him.
Boy just says he's a freak. His mother's right. But his dad was also right when he was on the oil rig. So again, we get to see these two perspectives battling on him.
Yeah. This advice here that Martha gives him is advice he actually takes in BVS as well. When he's struggling with how to deal with humanity. And he focuses by focusing on people that are important to him. Namely Lois, but I think it's a little broader than that. He realizes that there are subsets that he can focus on that give him hope and help him to realize humanity is not all bad.
That's a great point. And to add on to that, it's something happens in BVS. The people that style themselves acting on part of humanity, Lex Luthor and Batman, have this generalized idea of humanity that they're defending, but they actually turn out to be villains in a way.
Yeah.
Batman obviously is less of a villain than Luthor, who's totally bad, but Clark loves someone individually, and that expands to the whole world. So he reverses what Luthor and Batman say, and instead actually comes to love the world and not just himself. So,
and also, I'd like to say that Batman and Luthor play lip service to loving humanity, but they don't do a lot of showing it. And Clark is very quiet about humanity, but does a lot that says he loves humanity.
Also, I love the scene with the whales. We're past that now, but that was a really interesting shot. It's one of my favorites in the scene in the movie as well.
Aquaman.
Yeah, I know we were all thinking like maybe Aquaman will show up in BVS around one of those parts, but he didn't. I like the cameo that he had though, so I'm satisfied with it.
I wonder how Aquaman took the whole world engine thing.
I hope to get some lovely banter about that.
You just littered the crap out of my ocean, man. Could you please get your Kryptonian tech out of it?
Certainly strong enough to.
But he didn't. That makes him a villain. And here we have Pete Ross. Speaking for himself. He's a bully here.
Yes. Just pointing out here, we're going to have another scene with Clark saving people.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good price to pay for a couple stolen socks, just saying.
Yeah, I think he's as good as outweighing the bad right now.
Yeah. Maybe he should just let them drown. But
look at his instinct. His instinct is to help people. He looks around knowing that what he's about to do may expose him to the children around him who have been mean to him. At least in the person of Pete Ross. And he's his first inclination, though, is to help.
More than Pete Ross. We just had a scene before where all the students crowded around that broom cupboard were giving him grief for showing his powers. Or not really showing them, but if this doesn't show him, I don't know what does.
Also, getting the theme.
Yes. Heroism, man. We literally get a heroism montage in the beginning. Busload of kids, oil rig workers. I mean, did they watch just the ending because of the criticism of the destruction? And
I don't know. Also, he's diving back in, and who does he save?
Specifically diving back in.
He had the opportunity to get epic revenge. What did he do instead?
Saved his bully. Which he repeats with Lex.
It's well said.
So there's consistency in his character. And here we have the amazing Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent. Who gets way too much flack for his performance in this role. and for this characterization, I would say is the bigger problem people have.
But in reality, I think Jonathan Kent said things that I think most parents, or at least good parents, of a superpowered alien would say.
Yeah. He's concerned first and foremost for his child. And this scene is controversial, but I think people are missing the broader context here. And that is that he doesn't have all the answers. And you can see here, he's just trying his hardest.
His inclination is to help, and they've had this conversation before, as the prior sentence just said.
Yeah.
Now, here he's not saying that those kids should have died or should have been allowed to die. What he was trying to get across was that there's a huge issue here that's a global in scope, and some lives lost might be the cost of something much greater.
And it actually goes to a criticism of Man of Steel, which is he can't save everyone. He simply can't. It can't happen. He can't be in all places in all times, and some of those cases he's going to have to show some discretion. And I love here too that Clark's struggling with this. Jonathan decides to open up to him, show him just a little bit of what he knows.
He wants his son to make the choice for himself, and that's where he and Jor-El have so much in common.
Yeah. They differ a lot in terms of how they feel about humanity, because Jor-El, I think, probably from a bit of naivete, has a rosy opinion of humanity. And Jonathan Kent,
having been a human for a while,
does not have a rosy opinion of humanity, and it shows. And this is just bad science, people, but it is a movie, so we'll just take that.
It is what it is. That's all we can say. Again, I want to make this even clearer. He wasn't saying ever that he should have let people die. What he was saying was an attempt to get Clark to appreciate just how big of an issue his very existence was.
Yeah, which is what he's doing here as well. But he's also impressing upon him the importance of who he is, his identity. And also, you'll see here by the way he phrases what he's saying, that stand proud in front of the human race is obviously the preferable option. It's what he wants for Clark. And that line, perfectly delivered, perfectly shown that he really, really cares about this kid.
He both of his fathers again give him this mission and a charge, but they also layer it with choice. They're not forcing him to be something,
which is better actually than Superman being good because he was told to. No, this is a Superman that knows all the complexities of life and chooses to be good.
Now, Superman's not going to save someone from death here, but he is going to attempt to interpose himself between a guy who was acting horrendously towards a server, excuse me.
But yeah, he's his instinct again to help out. I'm just looking at Clark here. I don't know that I would have been brave enough to pick a fight with him in the first place.
Should not pick a fight with this person. That's what I would think to myself.
And this particular moment here too, when he goes to push at Clark, I actually got a chuckle out of it when I saw it in the theater, because just the way this guy just doesn't know.
He just doesn't get it.
No. Clark does not move. He's showing restraint here, and we'll see that again.
Because he's very close. As a human being, he has a sense of pride.
Yeah.
And he could very well have defended himself to the applause of everyone in the bar.
Yeah. And broke a good nose out of it with a light swing.
But he understands with great power comes great responsibility. Well... So one man's livelihood destroyed for the moment, but the guy was attempting to sexually harass a server.
That's not true. We don't know what his insurance was like.
That's true. He might have had great insurance. I love this scene. The introduction of Lois Lane. I think Amy Adams is absolutely superb in this role. I think she was the perfect pick for Lois Lane. And her first interaction with Clark, she just breezes right by him. She doesn't notice him. I think that's cool. Superman is just a guy. He doesn't stand out unless he's wearing a suit or doing something heroic.
I'm going to be honest, the first time I saw this, I didn't even notice it was Clark.
Yeah.
Which goes to his civilian blending in. I didn't notice. Heavy bags. He's holding them like waist high. I will say, one of my few complaints with this film is actually some of the dialogue. And not here, but in a moment when she says what if she has to tinkle? I just cringe because that's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist using the word tinkle. I mean, not that she couldn't plausibly, it just
strikes me wrong.
Yeah.
Also, Lois Lane is establishing her credentials as a certified tough lady. She's not taking any crap from the guy from SVU.
And she does this again and again with various characters who try to use her station as a woman to belittle her or demean her. And she immediately cuts to the chase with dispensing of that. No, that's not how this works.
I think they got that so right.
Yeah. And she's not a damsel in distress either. She's doing a dangerous job. It's only natural she would get into trouble every now and then. And it was established in her first dialogue when she was talking about getting writer's block if she's not wearing a flak jacket.
Yeah, not to go sideways, but can we appreciate that Clark is donning the Marvel spy attire with the baseball hat on and the jacket?
Yet, funnily enough, that worked for me in this film.
It did.
And totally doesn't work anywhere else in Marvel. But in fairness to Clark, nobody knows who he is yet. Nobody even knows to look for Superman. So
yes, that's well said. And here's where Lois's investigative instincts are coming out. She wants to see what's going on. She's been told there's this thing that's 20,000 years old that's been found on Canadian soil, and she wants to figure out what it is.
And this dude's running around the Arctic in a t-shirt,
just hanging out.
Yeah, like it's Malibu or something.
Well, maybe he's just that one guy that's always out in the cold, saying, "Oh, it's not that cold."
And here again is Lois noticing Clark when I don't.
I didn't see him either. Also, ice climbing Lois. Well done.
Yeah, and we're looking at a horizontal version of that tunnel from Alien vs. Predator,
which should, at least even in this universe, should give you some pause.
Yes.
Clark's mastered some powers, the heat vision.
Yep. And there is a craft. Which actually, joking about Alien, it makes me realize it actually does seem to take some sci-fi cues from Alien here.
I think so. Looks like one of the ships.
And I think that's Snyder's way of showing that this is, in a sense, a sci-fi film.
And I think we've seen feints towards sci-fi films in other universes, but I think this is unabashedly sci-fi and fantasy together.
Yeah, because the entire premise of this film is to explore what if he existed. Yeah, it is a first contact story. Sneaky Kryptonian defenses. Also, just wanted to let you guys know if a security company wanted to sponsor us, this would have been my moment for an advertisement. But seriously, again, we have a small-scale liquid geo technology here, with the Sentry using that liquid geo in an offensive way. It's kind of a foreshadowing of what we'll see later with the World Engine.
This is the first time we ever see Clark struggle in like a fight sort of sense.
Yeah.
First time we saw him struggle was against an inanimate object, but here he's actually fighting something from his home world, and it causes him some pain.
Yeah. And not a lot of things that can cause his arm to come back a bit. Like he gave it a look like, whoa.
What is this?
Right after we just saw Diner Guy dash himself against Clark with no effect other than to knock himself backwards. Also, props to Russell Crowe for adopting the obligatory space dad stance.
Curiosity killed the journalist?
What?
Unless... Hold on, tell me if you've heard this before. Clark saves somebody.
That could be the case here, but...
Now, is that open pod Supergirl? We don't know.
Actually, we do.
I guess we do know.
We do.
What is it?
There was a prequel comic related to this. It's a really good prequel comic. Look it up. I'm not sure how available physical copies are anymore, but look it up, and there's a prequel comic of Supergirl being the leader of the scout ship.
Okay.
So even this scout ship has ties to his house, which is also incidentally why there is a House of L suit in it.
That makes a lot more sense.
Which begs the question, is Superman wearing women's clothing?
Maybe on Krypton they've evolved beyond that. So they kind of have like bodysuits for everyone.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, let's just be thankful he didn't get her pencil skirt.
I'm going to point out here, this is the opposite of a meet cute, but it seems to work for both of them eventually.
There's some chemistry.
Well done.
Okay. No, but seriously, that also shows that he has extreme focus with that laser vision at this point.
He's mastered the skill.
Yeah. And kudos to the government for categorically denying this happened.
As they should have.
Yes.
People would be prone to panic.
You think?
I have no idea.
Maybe we'll see that. Also, just again, great cinematography.
Just the swirling like dust and clouds and snow.
And the true WTF expressions on these guys' faces.
That's great. And here we kind of run into something that's very, very realistic. Prestigious papers wouldn't want to run stories about an alien found in the Arctic or an alien ship found in the Arctic.
It would be branded fake news.
It isn't just something that they would just publish and expect people to take seriously. It's more of the Alex Jones territory.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why they end up having a blogger point it.
Yeah, leak it to an Alex Jones type. Okay, I'm being a little harsh to Woodburn there. But
Yeah. First glimpse of Perry.
I love this characterization of Perry White. A lot of the comic relief comes from him.
But in a way that seems...
Realistic.
And it springs from his character.
Yeah.
The verbal sparring here is great.
Yeah.
And it's very adult. You know, it feels like these people that know each other have a working relationship. They're not just quipping back at each other. They're having a conversation.
Right. And they respect each other, even if they don't agree.
Cinema Wins called that Bizarro Daniel Day-Lewis. He was right.
I've never heard that, but that's rich.
Also, love Lois not stepping back from her words.
Yes.
Creeping cancer. It's fantastic.
That I also want to bring up in the media montage in Batman v Superman, we see Woodburn again.
He's moved up in the world a little bit.
Yeah. Because his leak turns out to be quite true. Provably so. Just ask Metropolis.
Thank you, Carla Gugino. We appreciate you and hope that somehow Watchmen is integrated into the DCEU somehow.
It won't be, but... Yeah. And that makes me sad.
We can all dream.
Yeah. It's hard to reconcile four-term President Nixon.
Or the fact that some of the characters are playing other characters in the DCU already.
Yeah, I want to note a subtle change in Russell Crowe's performance, and that is that as a AI type construct, here he's very different from the Jor-El we see on Krypton. He's measured. He's walking with a quiet regality, not as much fluidity or energy to him. He's ghost-like.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it until you just said it, but I can see it.
Yeah.
And this first meeting is great. It's what you'd expect. You know, it's not super emotional. I am your father, Cal. It's very informative, like the way you'd expect a consciousness to talk to a person.
Yeah. And here we have real. Kryptonian PowerPoint, which is far better than ours.
No clickers?
This might be Kryptonian clip art, just saying. No, but seriously though, I love getting a bit of history to Krypton, even if it never pays off.
Yeah, even if we get nothing else. Yeah,
it sort of does, because we get the bit about world engines here.
Also, again, the technology, liquid geo technology, looks incredible.
Yeah,
it looks real.
And the art style here is like Russian propaganda. You know, it's Soviet era type. It's great. I mean, just look at it. Those are posters. Like I want some of these images on my wall. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
and they sort of used a inferior version of this in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But here
it was still good for what it was.
It was. This works. Man, it's good exposition right here.
I like how Zod is portrayed by Jor-El here, not entirely as a villain, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's not painted quite sympathetically, but
he's painted almost historically, like matter of factly.
This is what happened because of this.
Right.
And this is the central theme, guys, right here. If you're looking into this movie to appreciate it further because you didn't like it at first or that you were confused about what it was about, this is it right here. Choice, chance.
Yep. Aspiring to more. That line right there. Man.
I just want to sit in silence and appreciate it, but doing a commentary.
Well, sometimes it speaks for itself, and I think that's one of those moments where nothing we could have said would have been better or enhanced that any more than it already was.
And this right here is key as well. They were bound to Krypton because of how they were raised, which is why it was so important for Cal to be far, far away from them.
Yep. And why he was trusting somebody on Earth to raise him. How lucky it was that it was the Kents.
First reveal, there's a little fanfare, but not much.
It's subtle. It's good. It's understated.
It's like the entire movie in many ways.
Yeah. And I do like that subtlety and understatement because, in my opinion, a mark of mastery is subtlety. You know,
this right here, symbol means. It means hope, people.
And hope means nothing without some dirt.
This right here, the potential of every person to be a force for good. Maybe we'll have a more on it later, but every single hero in the DCEU, to some degree, embodies that belief.
Right.
Even Suicide Squad has that same message that people have within themselves the capability of being great and being good.
So when he was walking out there, you'll notice two orbs on either side of the doorway. One was whole and the other was crushed. You know, you get a sense. I was pointed out by a video called A Thesis on Man of Steel on YouTube. Check that out. It's got a lot of interesting points to say. I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but that was an interesting point that I don't think was unintentional.
This first scene with him in the suit is earned.
It's so earned.
The first time I saw it, my heart just swelled in my chest. Yep. He looks like Superman, and now he's going to learn how to be Superman.
How they get those folds on those cape shoulders, too. and I love that this first triumph, this flight, this moment of freedom for Clark is also accompanied by some, not only Hans Zimmer's just phenomenal score, but also some of Jor-El's dialogue. Like, he's remembering what he just heard with Jor-El.
And he learns that he has limits.
Yeah.
He learns how to fall. And why do we fall, Kal-El?
It's funny you mentioned falling because, you know, right now, as he's fallen, and then I don't mean that philosophically, but as he is literally fallen, we get this line.
That's why Superman, this idea of falling and of imperfection, that's the reason why Superman will never be comfortable being worshipped as a god or being an idol for people. He knows he's supposed to be the ideal instead. He simply shows them what they can do.
Right.
He's not their god.
He's aware of his imperfections. And He's modest and humble about it. And I love that. And
that's why he can enjoy the flying. He can enjoy the super strength. Because he knows that he doesn't have the weight of a god on him.
Right.
And also this flying scene, I can't get enough of it.
I know. And the sonic boom. That was... You see the joy in his... Superman smiling.
Smiling.
But anyway, this joy is contagious. And I love that. And I actually like that this Superman doesn't smile a whole lot of the time, because when he does, we can't help but share it. And this is just shot so wonderfully. And even though it's a really good excuse for helicopter shots, it is a really, really good excuse for helicopter shots.
If you can't get some helicopter shots with Superman, well, then what are you doing with your life?
Right. But again, snap zooms we're seeing a lot of, and shaky cam action, but not in the Chris Nolan I'm trying to hide my bad fight scenes type.
He's smiling. This is joy. Like if you were watching this and you aren't feeling joy and amazement and wonder with Superman, then that's your problem.
And an appreciation of Earth.
Yes.
He just had kind of a world tour, seeing what makes Earth so awesome and valuable, apart from humanity.
And I love this little side plot investigative journalism that we have here. I enjoy it. It adds some depth to the Superman mythos, and also it keeps Lois from being the character she's sometimes portrayed as who's in love with Superman but not Clark, or in love with Clark but not Superman. I think it's important that she's become an equal partner with him in his heroism, along with his mother.
And perfectly, they go back in time to different people that he had saved. We've just seen people he've saved, and all comes back to Pete. It was, for the minimal screen time he takes up in this series, man, I like Pete Ross as a character. He's so demonstrative.
He's important, yeah.
You know.
And I love that we briefly get to see like Martha Kent from the eyes of someone from like the big city. The kind of salt of the earth people, Midwestern farmers, not particularly outstanding, or just wealthy, people. Yeah, they're just people, and
Contrast with Batman and his ivory tower. You know, I mean, losing your parents is terrible, but his station in life is obviously a lot more pronounced. And I think that's important because Batman has a sense of pride and privilege, whereas
someone's going to get a photograph or figure out where you live. That's what Lex Luthor does in Batman v Superman with Wonder Woman.
Yeah. And one of those.
Also, she says here, helping people is not an option. Not helping people is not an option to you. She understands something that a lot of critics don't. Superman, Cal, Clark has as part of his makeup wants to help people, wants to save them.
It's kind of funny. We have a montage of going back and documenting the people he helped.
Yeah, almost as if they're doing like proactive apologetic for the film.
Yeah, it's built in. And this is just heartbreaking. These dads in this film, they steal the scene every time they're on the screen.
And the fact that Paquin is going to make this sacrifice, even after what Clark said, shows just how much he cared for his son, and the fact that Clark Kent actually ends up internalizing this lesson of choice because of his sacrifice shows that the sacrifice was worth it. But I'm not going to give that spiel yet.
Yeah. For now, I just want to focus on the fact that when I went to the theaters, even though knowing Clark Kent is a figure of Kansas, I did not expect we were going to be getting a tornado, which there's surprisingly few of in cinema. But this is...
Again, look at his father helping people in the midst of danger. How do you think that doesn't affect Clark?
Right. That's where he learned. I mean, I know it's instinctual to Clark to help people, but you can see it was also ingrained in him.
Yeah, he saw that behavior modeled for him by his father.
Right.
And right here, his father is going to teach him the lesson that he was trying to get at when he said, maybe you should have let the kids die. He's saying your choice, your appearance on this world is so important to me that I'm willing to let my own life be a sacrifice for you. And I think that's the only way to read this film, and this scene in particular, correctly.
And it shows that his talk about the students on the bus wasn't small talk. He was willing to bear the brunt of that cost himself. And I also want to point out here that this parallels, this sacrifice right here, for the comfort and peace of humanity, is exactly the same sacrifice Clark makes in BVS. Because Jonathan died for Clark, yes, but he also died for humanity.
Because he had the long view in mind.
Right.
And also, we don't know that Clark has super speed in this universe, by the way. So everyone probably would have seen him. And again, his secret would have been out. His father said, that's not worth it to me. What is worth it to me is that you make the decision to be Superman or whatever you are for yourself and when you're ready.
Not because you're forced into a situation, which is ironic given that he is forced into a situation, yes. Which I'll get to later because I want to rant on that particular moment. World was not ready.
And he was right.
Yeah. Just ask social media. They're still not ready to accept this. It's very meta.
And I think, again, Snyder said himself, he thinks his films are smarter than people give them credit for being. And he's absolutely right. He's always embedded these real messages in his films that critics simply pass over because they don't want to deal with them. Or it's fashionable not to.
Yeah, it irritates me that he's compared to Michael Bay. Not that Michael Bay is the worst thing in the world, but, I mean, this isn't mindless action.
And just in that moment alone, you can see that Lois appreciates the enormity of the moment herself. And we should be taking our cue from her as an audience.
Huh. Having learned what we just learned as the audience, Lois is in many ways a viewpoint character. We saw the products of her investigation before she saw them, but she ends up coming to see these moments, and then she hears about the sacrifice of Pa Kent after we've seen it.
He's saying, listen to what he's saying. Can you imagine how people on this planet would react? Again, these lines, these themes are being spoon-fed to you as the audience. Also, Perry's wearing an earring, so good for him. Didn't think he could pull it off, but after seeing it, it works. Also, look at Ma Kent, right? Just momming all over the place.
Notice also this is a different dog. So how much more heartbreaking is it that dog still died?
Oh, no. Oh, no. Also, LexCorp bus in the background.
Yeah. Totally not knowing he's going to be hating. If he knew that his bus...
He'd only known.
...had carried this guy. Also, the fact that he walks at all shows a restraint I would not have.
I would be flying everywhere. And look at his joy in finding his parents. It's believable. Their relationship here is believable. Even though they don't get a lot of screen time together.
Yeah. And this mixed feeling moment Martha has where she is indeed glad for him, but at the same time it's a melancholy thing because this is her son.
Yeah, she raised him. Almost from birth.
Yeah.
And now he finally gets it. It's a good bit of face acting on his part.
Yep. Didn't quite understand what this news might have meant to them. And notice this is coming from a point of compassion, and we'll hear this sentiment echoed again from Zod about struggling to adapt. So much of seemingly innocuous lines ends up being a throughway, just threaded into the film.
Mm-hmm. The truth about him is beautiful. What's the name of the song? I mean, the song BVS and the thing Batman tells himself, The Beautiful Lie.
Yeah.
And they're going to contrast those visions as well. We'll do a commentary on that one day.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'd love to do BVS as part of this as well. So you may be hearing from us on that one as well.
Also, seen before, Martha says she's worried they'll take Clark away from her. Of course, that ends up happening. Adds a little bit of pathos if you go back and watch it after BVS.
Also, Swanwick is impeccably dressed.
Always, always.
Very decorated. I like that about this too, is that it shows that Swanwick is a decorated general, but probably has a more active past.
Absolutely, and I love the military isn't presented here as hapless.
Yeah.
Maybe they might be overpowered sometimes, but they have good ideas and they're brave and they're courageous.
Yeah, they're out of their depth, but Superman kind of helps to even the odds. Because they have a part in this as well.
Also, this is just creepy. Well done, Snyder.
Bit of...
Again, he is wearing an earring. I'm not alone in saying that, right?
No, I saw it. I want to bring up two, harkening back to Krypton. We were just seeing some liquid geotechnology used as communication with Laura, and we're about to see it again, but used on a 2D display. A lot of people seem to have missed that, but I noticed it my very first time watching, is that it's almost like a crude adaptation to primitive human technology. It's like, what the heck are they using to communicate? Okay, we'll try it anyway.
Yeah, in the first contact, this actually reminds me a little bit of Arrival. We don't get to see as much like worldwide panic and stuff, but that opening UFO scene reminds me of Arrival. Also, this is just creepy. I actually started a little bit in the theater when this happened.
Also, great. I love the initial marketing for this movie, but if I had been in charge of marketing, it would have just been a YouTube video with this.
Oh, that would be like a little guerrilla marketing campaign.
Yeah.
You are not alone.
Man, very well shot. It's got a horror feel to it, dim lighting.
This scene right here, they're all watching on the screens.
Yeah.
The different languages.
And I don't think Zod was using Rosetta Stone here. He didn't learn every language. I think there's just an implication that Kryptonian technology can do this for him.
At least it's not on YouTube where they'd have to stop for ads.
But this right here, you see, it's
distorted at first.
Yeah. Sort of trying to use those different pinpoints, just like the liquid geotechnology of trying to out project the pixels.
I love how Clark knows who General Zod is. That's a great point, by the way. I'd never thought about that.
I love how Zod steals Clark's moment to reveal the existence of aliens.
I want to point something out here too. He's going to get a chance, Clark is, to not give up his location and let other people suffer, which is what, the uninitiated critic says his dad wants him to do with a bus scene, but he instead chooses to reveal himself. He still has the choice. He could let people die for him, or he could reveal himself now. That's why he goes to the chaplain. But yeah, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I want to put that out there.
Yeah. He's robbed of his chance to make his first impression on his own terms to humanity. And instead, humanity's first impression is blackmail. So, it's amazing they ever learned to trust him at all. And it also explains Batman's kind of confusion as to where Superman stands.
Also, this is humorous. Yeah, that makes sense. I love this. This is funny to me. I enjoy it.
And exactly what Perry was warning her about is happening. Panic.
So say again, he could have let everyone die, which people say is the point of the bus scene, but it's not. It just shows that there's gravity to this situation.
Right. Gravity that is now completely stolen from him. And I can't remark on the importance of that his chance to make the first impression was robbed.
Yes, it was definitely taken from him. I agree with that.
They just have this knowing look, like, really?
And I like how the good country boy finds a pastor to talk to.
Yep.
When he has to make the biggest decision of his life.
Also, it's interesting that he's referred to as a god so often, and he obviously doesn't think himself as a god because he seeks a figure
of wisdom and divine authority.
Right. The not so subtle Plato thing going on here. But again, bullied. And that's important, this through line of bullying, because this is a small scale version of what was happening in the diner.
Mm-hmm. It shows that he's learned restraint.
Yeah.
Like from an early age. Like this, again, he's a teenager. He's got Kryptonian hormones going through him.
And the bully comes to help him.
Yeah.
Former bully.
So you always get to see in Man of Steel, like, these swirling contradictions of humanity is bad, humanity is good, he'll be a god, he'll be a freak, you can trust him, you can't.
Right. And throughout, there's just subtle things, different people who are there to remind him that humanity does have value. Good value.
Even people that you would ordinarily think you couldn't trust.
Right.
That's the value of the Pete Ross character to me.
Yeah, me too. Pete Ross is actually almost a foreshadowing of Batman and what it does for Superman later on, or even Batman himself. A chance of redemption. Somebody who's antagonistic to him, but then comes to learn that he's pretty much pure.
Yeah, he's got a good heart, and right in that scene that we just left, his dad tells him he's going to change the world for good or bad. So he has to decide what kind of man he wants to be. Again, that through line of choice is in this entire movie.
Yeah, and yet there's also a Kryptonian element because there's also not a choice. He can't choose mediocrity.
Yeah, good or bad is going to change things.
His choice is in the tone of his greatness. Not so subtle, stained glass Gethsemane going on behind him.
Yes, Snyder's not always subtle.
No.
But it's amazing that people have still missed it.
Yeah, it's funny because they say he has no depth, and yet he's just like flashing depth.
We're invited to see this scene on multiple levels because again, he's wrestling here with his entire existence as an alien on a human planet.
Yeah, and I wanted to go back to that last shot if you want to rewind and see it. Clark's head is not center frame; it's actually sharing center frame with the figure of Jesus. Our eyes are meant to notice that. Again, great use of the U.S. military.
And a great use of Superman of restraint, A, and B, a little bit of showmanship. Like, he could have just, like, shown up and just walked into the building and shook a few hands or whatever and been in handcuffs, whatever they wanted. But here, he chooses to reveal himself and say, look, I am powerful, but I'm not your enemy.
Right. He's showing that he's not playing games. But here and again, he's surrendering for humanity and for Lois. Is again a through line. Lois is a proxy for humanity, folks. I wonder what that painted thing was.
I don't know.
Did you notice that before? Cause
behind the line. Yeah.
X-rayed. We want to see it. What did it say before?
Look at how kind he is. Like, even in the moment of his own trouble, his own, like, mixture of emotions about seeing Zod, who he doesn't trust, he's like, whatever makes them feel more secure.
Yeah. And it's funny, we get a moment of Gethsemane, followed by a willing arrest.
In the handcuffs, is being led to an interrogation.
You have no power over me. Except as which is given to you by me.
I also love this scene where he just kind of casually does some world building of his powers.
It's talking straight through the two-way mirror. Tranquilizing agent.
There's no way that could work.
That's not gonna work.
33 years.
They dispense the war, the world loophole.
Again, I can't point out enough that I like that Lois Lane knows who Clark is. It really makes her believable as a journalist to be able to know the difference.
Yeah.
And as a love interest.
Well, it actually is really great that only she knows, because it plays up the fact that she is not just a good journalist. She's exceptional in her research.
And I like how Swanwick, I think Henry Lennox plays Swanwick here. He's just kind of a matter-of-fact guy. Look, I sympathize with you, kid, but my job is my job.
Yeah. I also love, too, even though Clark can see through the two-way mirror, we can't. So that shot is poetic. He's having this conversation as much with himself as he is with humanity.
Yeah.
It's showing us an internal struggle as well as an external one. Also, that looks really uncomfortable. That suit, I'm just saying.
Yes, it does. But I think it was originally meant to withstand Earth's climate.
Yeah. He is very, very much withstandable to Earth's climate.
Yes. He, again, is looking out for Lois here. He appreciates what she's done for him, but he realizes he has to take this on alone.
Yeah.
And his face, you can see he's not confident about how this will turn out.
Actually, he thinks he has to take this on alone.
Yes.
That's an important distinction, because not only just here is Lois also going to be forced to play along, but Lois seems to get the point that he doesn't have to go through this alone.
Yeah. That's kind of one of the things he'll learn, like that being that ideal for humanity doesn't mean that he has to do it all by his lonesome.
Also, just want to call out and admonish the Justice League for doing absolutely nothing.
Just sitting on their hands.
Superman's got this. We don't even know what he's like.
I bet Aquaman didn't care about anything to the world engine landed in the ocean. No, I guess he didn't care then either.
Well, it got taken care of for him, so.
Yeah.
Feor. Good villain.
And just the arrogance and condescension here is just palpable. That she doesn't show to Cal, she shows to the military. The military's not having it, though.
No, and the interesting thing here, too, is she doesn't even use Lois's name.
Yeah.
That woman. But also there is an underlying respect that Feor shows for these warriors of their
fellow
race.
warriors. Yeah. I think she learns that, though, because I think she just addressed them with some contempt, as human beings,
right?
As that woman, instead of attempting to negotiate with them at all. And Lois also shows some heroism in saying, "Look, I don't want you all to fight for me. I'm just going to go if that's what it has to be done."
Yep. Very good to be back in Kryptonian environments again. They're just so neat, so strangely alien, so appropriately different.
It feels like a different way of thinking, different way of living, and that's what alien means. It doesn't just mean they look different, it means that they are different.
Yeah.
That's the true meaning of alien.
Yeah. They're not of this place, and it shows. And these beetle-like craft again. I love those Kryptonian ships, man.
They do resemble the life forms. Like, that's such a great point that you made. Like, I'm glad people recognize that. It's not just like what is the most sleek aircraft. It's like these designs seem to take after the things that we find in our world.
Right. They learned it from their world in much the same way we learn a lot from our nature.
And Zod's trying out his carrot approach, not the stick.
Yeah. He's so interesting because I found myself not really hating Zod. He's definitely the bad guy, but his motivations, his ideas, his charisma keeps him from sinking to the level of a mustache twirler.
Yeah.
There's a lot of depth to him and layers to him. That
also that scene of Lois kind of standing over Superman, looking up at a villain, is kind of reminiscent of BVS when Clark's about to die by Batman's hand.
I love how Snyder used this opportunity to use a stylistic version to outline the stakes here.
I love the fact that they have like these dream sequences. Yeah. And I like exactly what you said. I like the stylized version of the exposition dump.
Yeah, it's
and this looks great.
Yeah, it sort of echoes, not in the terms of the actual execution, but in terms of the way the exposition's being given. It sort of echoes what we just got on the scout ship with Jor-El, where instead of just close-ups of characters talking, they decide to show and tell.
and they truly love their planet. If you saw the tears on Feora's face, and you see Michael Zod fighting back his own emotion, they loved their planet. They loved Krypton. That doesn't make what they did right, but in a certain way, it's understandable.
Yeah, I mean, it was their home, and now they see a perfectly good candidate for a new home, and somebody already there, somebody they can. You get the feeling that they really do want Clark or Cal for them to join them. I think that the House of El is one of the bloodlines that Zod would deem worthy.
Yeah, and I think it's very noble for Jor-El to stick up on behalf of the other bloodlines and say, look, even though ours might have been spared, that doesn't mean what you're doing is right.
Right.
That's very noble of him, and I think, again, that nobility is passed down to his son.
Yeah. That Kansas reference with his t-shirt. That very cleverly woven Americana here instead of just obvious symbols.
And the mixture of the alien technology with the ship and the cornfield, that's just such a poignant image to me. And that's the idea of First Contact. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No. You're totally on point. And the weather vane as well. Because ironically, what is the world engine going to change more than the weather? And I wonder, you see that clothesline there. It seems to have a lot of the same clothes we see later on in the flashback. So it's like there's some subconscious layering here. Because right now we are witnessing kind of like a stylized mental interrogation.
That's really powerful. He, in making this scene with the world engine and how it's supposed to affect Earth, he actually does make it like Krypton, which means that he's recapitulating the entire death cycle of that civilization. Yeah. He's saying, look, I'm going to create the same kind of civilization that just failed.
Notice the lack of color on Superman's suit.
Yeah.
Distancing himself from the Americana thing that we just saw. He recognizes there is a kinship between the two.
I believe he actually believes this.
Yeah. Perfectly sold. I'm sold that that's the way the character feels.
He has this. Shannon has this simmering of rage beneath the surface.
I don't think he lies once in the story. He's a straight shooter. He's not your.
He's a military guy. Yeah.
He's just honest and in a frightening way.
Which makes him a great villain.
Yeah. And honestly, it's interesting because honesty is also a trait of Superman.
Maybe it's a Kryptonian trait.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny because what is the Kryptonian capital? Kandor. The trait they seem to have.
So maybe it is. I enjoy this little bit of scientific exposition from the ship's doctor. The first time we see like Superman's skin pierced by something, it's kind of a shock to the audience. Superman is invulnerable. Now we see him in this Kryptonian atmosphere, and it's a little bit of a shock. Again, following us off something that Ryan said, I think this ship feels like a life form. It feels like a habitat. It doesn't just feel like a cold, sterile environment built for outer space voyages. And I like that. It's got a very organic feel to it. And also, I kind of like the technology here of the push and click. It makes sense to me. That there still be something tactile that Kryptonians would use. Mm. And again, Ryan's point about consciousness acting differently than the real person is actually very well received here. I can see it now the more that I watch Russell Crowe. And again, for people who don't get the point of the movie or who don't understand the plot right here, Russell Crowe was designing with Lois the plan to stop Zod and his world engine. So keep an eye out for that interaction.
Yeah.
And extrapolate from that.
Also, I love how Jor-El, even in death, finds a way to be fantastically useful. And it was really slow reflexes for a Kryptonian. Just wanted to say, I guess not all of them are warriors.
Yeah, can't all be warriors.
This guy's just displays a genuine level of creepy. Speaking of can't all be warriors.
Yeah, he's not there for any fighting shenanigans.
I can't believe
Also, shout out to IHOP.
so much product placement. Too much product placement.
But who wouldn't want to go to IHOP? IHOP sounds pretty good right now.
I have never really had a problem.
Stormtrooper aim. That's a cinnamon wins for you.
But like in Star Wars, we get a sense that doors are incredible.
I would love to live in a place with doors like that.
Can't have break-ins unless R2-D2 is there. Come along. Actually, come to think of it, Jor-El is kind of like R2-D2 here. Plot device. And now we have some Stormtrooper aim. She missed point blank. Just saying.
Maybe all of the warriors weren't bred their entire lives to be accurate. Maybe she was too excited.
Yeah.
She felt it too much. Oh, this is an amazing scene.
Yes.
Business first with Jor-El's consciousness. Oh, this scene. Look at it.
Yeah. A bridge between two peoples. Again, another theme.
He's accepting his role as protector of Earth right now, but he sees it how? Through his personal connection with Lois.
Right.
He goes from the individual to the general.
Yeah.
And there's the Christ pose, and the music.
Not to mention the sun being a prominent feature of the scene calls back to what Jor-El was saying. In time, they will join you in the sun. You know, so we get imagery along with the dialogue. That's what I love about Zack Snyder. Even if it does come across as on the nose sometimes, this is a comic book film.
And as BVS showed, sometimes you have to be incredibly explicit to get the most mundane points across.
And honestly, I think he's more subtle than people give him credit for.
I think so as well.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be so much misunderstanding. But I don't think he's too subtle either. I think it's there if you choose to look for it.
Exactly.
Not there if you choose not to look for it.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to see it, you just close your eyes and pretend it didn't happen.
Again, I love the contrast here. We see a human vehicle next to a Kryptonian one, and it just seems so inadequate.
It seems so out of place. It seems, again, like a first contact movie should be.
Right.
There should be some divergence between the two cultures. It shouldn't just be, oh, well, look at that. They're different than us. There should be some genuine discontinuity.
Yeah. Good connecting moment for them too. And it's funny, I hear conflicting criticisms that their relationship was too platonic or that it was not explicit enough.
Yeah.
That's just I don't know.
It doesn't make sense to me.
People,
also, you can see Clark super hearing.
Yes. And fantastic battle armor. Just so great.
That's a mom for you.
Yep. And yet again, Feora's the one to cut through the red tape and get down to brass tacks.
Oh, poor Martha.
Good Lieutenant Feora. Or Sub-Commander, as she said her rank was. I don't know if that's an official ranking for Krypton, but she does the dirty work. And you notice Zod doesn't do much until there's not really a choice.
Is every inch a commanding officer.
Yeah. More along the lines of the Napoleonic era, though. He's a general on the battlefield.
Yes. Also, the voice is scary with the...
Yeah. And...
People give this scene a lot of stick, but...
If again, it were my mom?
Yeah. Like, if you had that kind of power and someone was attacking your mom, you would be doing your absolute best to try to kill them, too.
Yes.
And, you know, if some stuff got in the way, some stuff got in the way.
It's a barroom brawl. It's just the bar happens to be very big. You know? And I do like this, too, that they could be out dealing with the craft that Clark was in.
Also, that little...
Yeah, the screen thing for his helmet. But they could be dealing with the craft, but instead Zod's men panic at the fact that their general has just been plummeted to the other side of town. Monologuing. A good guy monologuing.
Good guy's monologuing. Never ends well.
He just showed his hand. You notice they weren't shooting Clark before. I think they do want him alive. But
now they're just like, yeah, whatever.
When you threaten the boss,
you have to pay.
Yeah.
They can't take it up with HR. They've got to. The beetle creature.
Yeah, it's so great.
Also, the robe kind of, not the robe, the cape kind of looks like velvet.
Yeah.
I like that.
Me too.
It's very soft.
I love that suit, though.
It's a great suit. It kind of reminds me of that scene from Thor.
Yeah, yeah.
But better.
Way better. Oh, look. Showing concern. Oh, so this is like Western Showdown at high noon on steroids.
Yes. With Dragon Ball Z speed.
Yes. Now, notice here, authorized to... Deadly Force is almost a joke.
It's like the best we can do. They don't want to use that term.
Right.
The best we can do. Yeah.
You are authorized to use the best we can do.
All right.
Well, actually, it's funny. Up to this point, they have no expectation that this shouldn't work.
Yeah. Faster than a speeding bullet, as Cinema Wynn says.
Yeah. Faster than very many speeding
bullets. He's not faster.
I think he's faster. He's just dumber.
He does appear dumb.
He's your typical tank stereotype.
Yes. They're like both physical villains, but he's more machine-like.
But you know,
or he or she or they.
I think it's a he.
Okay.
But I gotta say,
Hulk? Is that you?
I want to point out he did this before Hulk made it cool. Hipster Kryptonians. But anyway.
Oh, coming through the fire. That's amazing.
Yep. I want to point out, too, that...
He saved the pilot?
Yeah. And the Kryptonians almost seem to be caught off guard by how effective the weaponry was. And that it actually managed to push them back.
Yeah.
So I think this is, like you said, a part of an arc for Feora.
Look at her. Look at his face when he tries to hit her, and he can't. She's faster than he is. That's amazing. It's good face acting. Like I can't believe I can't hit him.
Yeah, I honestly think she is the best fighter of this
Her
group.
versus Wonder Woman should make that happen.
Yeah.
Oh,
She would beat Wonder Woman.
that's highly probable.
Because she doesn't hold back. Clark definitely does.
And people say that she's a little too on the nose with her lines, and it is true in a way she is. But that's kind of how I'd imagine like a propagandized soldier to talk.
Yeah.
She says something like "evolution always wins," not because that's some profound insight. It's the way that she's been taught to think as a soldier.
Also, I love that teamwork they display in fighting Superman.
I'm glad
that moment where he
villains,
catches him in the air.
Yes. I'm glad villains, use teamwork. They shouldn't run at them one at a time.
Yeah, they're almost like a squad of suicidal. Never mind. But yeah, they do operate as a unit, and again, catches him before he can take off. Such a great move. And the Battle of Smallville, wonderfully choreographed super fight. Nothing like it before or since, I would even say.
I love just the rage vision. Again, that's why he can't put his hand over Zod's eyes. It burned the people with Kryptonian gloves on. Come on, people.
They're in body armor and they didn't like it.
It's a headshot.
Good shot, sir. Does not matter.
R.I.P. SVU.
No, what is this? Saving somebody.
Saves a guy twice. He gets punched for it.
That's Superman in a nutshell. Saves a guy twice, gets punched for it.
This part is cool, but sad.
Yes. It shows how out of their depth they are. And how comfortable she's gotten with the fact that she is definitely...
Also, just putting this out there, this is not super speed. This is not Flash level speed.
No, this is very fast, but not...
You can still see them. Like the cool thing about it is their movements are so fast they don't seem fluid. They just seem like snap. She's moving. That's the way super speed should look to the human eye because we're not fast enough
to track it.
Yeah,
and we're only seeing the pauses. It's almost like it reminds me of like old Game Boy games or those like Happy Meal games you get where it's just like calculated graphics or just blink as the movement.
Also, shout out to Colonel Hardy.
And they're still shooting like crazy.
They know it's doing nothing at this point.
But boy, they hope it does.
Got the knife out. That's not going to work, buddy.
No, but it's admirable.
It's a BA scene.
Yes.
And Feora with the Warriors code. Well done.
Seeming to recognize...
Game recognized game, as the kids say.
She's at least recognizing that even though he's not on her level, he is awesome for his race. Even if she doesn't respect that race at all. It's like respecting a particularly feisty crab.
Yes, like, well done, crab, but you're still gonna taste good with butter.
Yeah.
That's how those things go. I think she thought she was gonna stop it, and definitely
wasn't ready for the incendiary round. We just get a shot of her mimicking the Capitol bombing, just in the inferno, like, well.
How you doing? Not good, Bob.
Yeah, look.
I also love the villain's theme right here. It's really good.
Yeah. And humanity scored a knockout punch there.
They did. Like, maybe they're not completely helpless.
Yeah.
Also, this first
Official.
actual reveal of Superman as a hero is just great. Chills.
Yeah, and the line that recognizes it, perfect.
The boots, starting with the boots, then the cape.
Dirty cape.
A dirty cape. Poor guy's sweating. They're all looking at him.
And they all notice it. You notice that they all seem to be lowering their guns. Now they're completely at ease.
It's hard for me to say anything there because I just want to watch it.
And here, Hans Zimmer's score. American flags in the background. That's the lesson they're learning.
And the way he takes off here makes me think that he's showing off for Lois when he tells her before he fights the World Engine that she should stand back a little bit. So Superman is human, showing off a little bit.
Also, Volcano, Clark, really? That's your science fair project?
Too soon.
And a gold medal for it? Not a lot of good scientists in Kansas.
Sorry, Kansas, if you're listening to this right now. We respect your science.
Yes, we do. Just had to pick on this moment.
Yeah, I mean, of course it can be replaced because Superman can build it again just really quickly.
Or steal it, like from a clothesline or something.
Oh, well, yeah.
Also, isn't it a bit of conceit on Zod's part for not leveraging Martha?
Yeah.
Like
shows that maybe he's not as bad as Lex.
Or that he doesn't think that Clark values humanity quite that much in this moment. Not yet.
Yeah, he will learn that, though.
Yes. It's just a flesh wound, you guys.
Yes, flesh wound.
And we're getting a bit of retro exposition here.
We see now just how important Cal really is.
Yeah. Also, the invocation of the word refugee explicitly here works really well.
Because Clark really is an immigrant and a refugee. And
refugee is probably the more accurate term, given that his planet is gone.
Yes, absolutely done.
And in a sense, these are...
This scene! Oh, it's perfect.
The World Engine is one of my favorite plot devices ever. Like, it's just so cool. Like, when I first heard about this film, I did not expect a terraforming angle, but it's brilliant.
It's that level that DC films have to be on, that epic, legendary level.
Yeah, and again, reinforcing that this is a sci-fi film at heart as well.
And good exposition here, you know. It's got to be done. They're getting that done the best way they can.
Yep.
The shot of the Earth.
But they're also giving exposition from characters that should know this stuff.
Yes, yes.
So it's not like it's Martha going, they're sending another ship to the other side of the Earth.
I bet they're terraforming his son.
Unlike, I will contrast this with a moment in Batman Begins, when we have the guys at the Wayne Tower that have no hold on the plot whatsoever, giving us the information about the train, when it could have been somebody, I don't know, like Lucius Fox that we care about. Instead, Snyder goes for a more economic approach.
He can be very sparse, which is not something you'd associate with Snyder usually.
No. But he's using people we should care about to give us the exposition in a believable way.
And this scene just works so much better with Batman v Superman.
Yes.
This entire ending sequence.
Yeah. This act here. I don't know why people hated it. I remember walking out of the theater from this movie thinking, this has got to get universal acclaim.
It's like, who could dislike this movie? That's what I thought to myself ending it.
Yep. And then when I was so disappointed to see the reaction.
Oh, this first scene of the gravity.
Yeah, the water. And you'll notice as it goes along, it forms like a ring, almost like an anti-gravity exhaust.
Yeah. It all comes back down. Oh.
Yeah. And it's going back and forth like a ping pong ball, or like one of those desk toys with the balls on either end. Kind of hammering back and forth, increasing the gravity, putting out the necessary gases. And it's doing it in such a way that we see it happen and immediately understand.
Yes, it's so visceral and violent.
Yeah,
it doesn't, like, for all of Snyder's style, it seems like this destruction is not just realistic, but it's supposed to hit us hard.
Yeah, to me, this is the planetary equivalent of knocking out the wall in your living room and remodeling.
Yeah,
you know, it's violent at first. It's not good for the wall. You know. And it's not good for the paint on the wall. It's going to be different by the end of it. It's going to be better, but different.
Yeah.
At least from a Kryptonian aspect, you know, or point of view.
I love this is how they give him his name.
Yeah.
It seems so matter of fact.
The military code names him Superman.
Yeah, it's just, okay, that works.
He's got an S. He's super awesome. He's male.
Yeah.
Superman.
See, the human understands it. Yeah, that's good. Humans aren't completely incompetent.
And we're getting a bit of leadership that we're seeing from Superman here, which we may see more of in Justice League.
I think we will,
because he's the one giving the plan.
And at the very least, he can turn to the other members and say, "Guys, when the Black Zero event happened, where were you?"
Cyborg, you're excused. Flash,
what were you doing? Wonder Woman.
And Bruce is just like, you don't want to know.
Yeah, I did what I could.
Dude, I hated you
and then
so
the
much.
showing off for Lois. Like, oh, yeah, right.
Maybe
Superman.
a little bit more.
You took off in Colonel Hardy's face. You can't fool me. That's the audience right now. We should all be looking up at Superman with that kind of admiration.
Yeah. And notice he's going to the Indian Ocean and not Metropolis because he can get there a lot freaking faster.
Yes.
That's the point here.
And this destruction is beautiful. But you can tell it's also terrifying.
Yeah.
It's shot very well, that's what I mean. Not beautiful.
Yeah. No. Beautiful is an applicable word. It's cinematically beautiful. And Zod realizes the scout ship could be of use, given that it's equipped with a Genesis chamber, which is an implication that the scout ship was also a colonization ship.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Also, again, Lois should have been there. She should be right where she is right now, because otherwise, no one would have understood what happened to the little drive.
She's
to
the
the
one
key.
with the most practical experience.
And knowledge. Jor-El gave her the plan.
Yeah.
Now, Zod the soldier
Yeah,
has
perfect.
mastered his senses.
Menacing, too, because now it should dawn on us what this means for us.
We don't have that secret weapon anymore against him. We can't just tear his mask off and say, okay, now you have too much information, you're going to overload.
Yeah.
It's like that scene in Split when she says his full name. It only works once.
That, and it shows that, he took the initiative to do that. He didn't expose himself to that in a raw combat situation again. And again, just love the interplay.
And I think the scene just before is when he had purged the last of friendship and goodwill from his heart. He has nothing now but his mission.
Which is going to bite him in the butt.
Yes, it will. And this is hands down. The world engine scene is my hands down favorite part of this movie.
Yeah, I love the ring of water on the world engine on the Indian Ocean side, and then the ring of debris and the Black Zero on the Metropolis side.
Absolutely, and the serpentine like geo liquid AI defense system that it has.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of the drone that attacked Clark in the scout ship, but much bigger.
Much scarier.
Yeah.
Oh, that explosion actually hurt. It felt like there were people there. And this is kind of what you'd expect with a massive battle happening in a major U.S. city.
And Gravity acting crazy about it.
And again, a little defense for people not leaving yet. They had no idea what was happening.
Also, I wonder if Perry is giving his evacuation of the Daily Planet at the same time Jack is giving his.
Probably, because the movie is like showing us that this is all happening really relatively quickly.
Yeah.
So there's still some time for people to be confused.
And again, in that shot, you just see a lot of the skyscrapers crumbling. It's the Black Zero. It's not Superman.
Exactly. So pay attention to that, guys. Those towers falling right there, Black Zero.
One ship, way more competent than an entire alien invasion in Avengers. Just saying.
This is just an eerie 9/11 parallel here.
That, and what's crazy is that the Kryptonians left it undefended, knowing there's just no resisting it.
Yeah. This is horrifying to watch. Like, and I think that's the way it should be.
Right.
For an alien invasion. Like, I feel scared watching it.
There's gravity to the situation. You see, but if this was a Marvel movie, that's the kind of quip we'd get.
And I like where he says here, we're both ghosts, Zod. He's telling them, look, what made Krypton great is done. It's been depleted just as much as the natural resources have been.
And
we need a new start.
And what made it great also made it fail.
Yes. The ability to drain resources requires a lot of technology and a lot of technological advances, but it also means that you got rid of your resources because you were too arrogant to...
Too small-minded.
Yeah.
To not broaden the scope of your science.
Yeah, and now I think he adopts cruelty into his nature, and he's not just about like the mission. He also wants to hurt people. It'll become more exposed after Superman defeats him.
Well,
but
the House of L is challenging him more and more and more, and so the friendship has waned to a low point. But interestingly enough, we also get Zod effectively killing Jor-El twice in one movie over duty. You know?
Yeah, you're right. And I could watch. I've watched this scene 100 times. I could watch it 100 more times. Like it's unlike any scene I've ever seen in a comic book movie before.
Yeah. It's
special in that way.
It's appropriately sci-fi, and notice the world engine threw him. They knew they were done with him. You know, they didn't just slam him into the ground. They just tossed him aside.
And that look of horror there from Perry is how we're all supposed to be viewing what's happening right now. Because this is what happens when a truly superpowered alien force comes into contact with human beings.
Right. And now, looking at Act 1 and 2, we see Superman risking himself, or not necessarily himself, but exposure, risking his emotional well-being and his secrecy to help people in need. And now, we get humanity risking their lives to help humanity.
Yeah.
Everyday people. These aren't soldiers and stuff. We expect that of the soldiers. But this is a newspaper editor and some of his staff, you know.
This scene, again, I'm going to say this because it needs to be said. If you're watching this scene with him standing in the light, it's perfect. And you don't feel inspired listening to the score and watching the struggle on his face and seeing the despair on Jenny's face and on Perry's resigned acceptance of his fate. If you can't see Superman's triumph as inspirational here, you are the problem.
I agree.
The movie's not the problem, you are.
And let's not forget, too, he's in the center of this gravity beam, which is leveling skyscrapers and resisting against it. This is the DCEU's moment from The Dark Knight Rises where he makes the jump.
Yes.
You know, it's just, man, feel-good moment in a dark place. This is what hope is really about. We've got a terrible, dark situation.
But something good will be pulled out of it.
Right.
And evil will be defeated. And the scene of it falling to pieces in the Indian Ocean is beautiful.
Yep.
It's inspiring.
And they could just ignore this, but they bring it up again in the next film. It's a detail that's still important.
Again, Lois should have been here because she was the one who the plan was entrusted to.
Right.
And she might have had other information that Hamilton didn't know about.
And again, this is a case where in this movie it's great that humanity gets a chance to respond to Superman. You know, in sharing a struggle, bearing the same risks, the same burdens. Even though they're not on his same level of playing, they're doing their part.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's why Superman is the ideal and not the idol.
Right.
We've all had those kinds of problems. Just tech support. Have you tried turning it on and off again?
Is it plugged in? Kryptonian tech support. And then the ruthless General Zod. Now,
I'm going to tell you what this scene reminds me of. Right after Zod gets foiled in his attempt to target the aircraft.
I think he uses the exact same phrase for both of them. Target that aircraft. Except this time it's a if you can't. The only way to get something right is to do it yourself. I don't really see this as much of a hesitation so much as it is he's letting Zod know, I didn't make this decision lightly.
He understands that Krypton ran its course. And it's not just the planet, it's the culture, the civilization, the morals, the philosophy of Krypton needed to die. Also, by the way, ships going, skyscrapers falling. This is the fault of the ship, not Superman.
And those are not fertilized babies. So he didn't just commit infant genocide.
It's important to point out. But I'm going to just, hopefully I'll time this correctly. There's a very interesting scene that I want to analogize this to. It is the ending portion of Rogue One. Feor comes in and wreaks havoc. And it reminds me a lot of Rogue One. They couldn't stop Darth Vader. He was an unstoppable force against peons.
Yeah.
And this is the same sort of thing. She's just marching through, causing destruction.
And yet there is defiance there.
Yeah.
Rebellion. In the
courage.
face of terrible fear.
You know, look at him running. Look at this. This just reminds me so much of Rogue One.
You're right. I'd never noticed it before, but you're absolutely right. Let's get them Death Star plans over there, bad boy.
Poor guy. That had to hurt.
Yeah, and speaking of Star Wars and Death Stars, the World Engine is kind of like a more intimate, slow Death Star.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the payoff there for a good death is its own reward. And he's like, checkmate.
Yeah, that's... Also, poor scientist guy who apparently didn't get to fall out of the back.
Yeah. Dr. Hamilton.
Sorry, Dr. Emil Hamilton. And your wintergreen lifesavers. Also, just point this out real quick. Since Lois didn't go through the Phantom Zone, that's why she's not being sucked into the black hole. And that's the reason why Superman is being sucked into the black hole, because he's been through the Phantom Zone once, traveling from Krypton to Earth. Just a little bit of apologetic there. Needs to be said.
It really isn't that important of a detail anyway. If you hate the movie for that reason, you are nitpicking. You're trying to hate the movie. And I just don't respect that.
I also don't. As you should all tell that by now.
They managed to get Jenny out.
Stand in for the audience, guys. Jenny says he saved us. Absolutely right. He did save us.
Yep.
Also, this kiss is earned because they're two very good-looking people who have been through death-defying shenanigans. Doesn't mean they're in love right now.
Shenanigans.
It just means that they're attractive and they went through some stuff.
Even though no one says it's downhill after the first kiss.
Yeah, I don't think anyone says that.
No. But this is, again, part of that questionable dialogue thing I was talking
That
about.
only counts when you're kissing a human. Well done, Clark.
That's more stand back. A little more.
Also, the Superman shows a little bit of fear from time to time, or an indecision, which I think is great. It humanizes him greatly. Like, he's not an automaton or a robot.
Yeah, he's also not approaching Zod to attack.
Yeah, he actually has some empathy here.
Yep. I think the reason he's landing and walking is because he's like, oh, I'm sorry, man, but not cool.
Again, choice woven throughout the entire movie.
And here is an exact lack of choice.
And these two civilizations are going to clash. Which one will triumph? That's the question of the movie.
Beautifully. They will clash beautifully.
And just a little bit of preemptive apologetic. If two superpowered beings are going to fight, it's going to be messy.
And also, Superman doesn't get to dictate every turn of the fight. Fights are, by nature, a clash of two different wills.
Yes, like if Superman had his way, they would have fought in the Sahara Desert or on the moon.
Yeah.
But Zod has made it quite clear, right here, he is trying to kill people. That's why he wants to fight on Earth.
That's why he wants to fight in Metropolis.
Yes.
I think it's very clear he wants to be here right now. And he is the warrior of these two.
He's a far superior fighter. Only thing Clark has on his side is a better knowledge of what Earth's atmosphere does to you. It's the only advantage that he has.
I also like that early on in the fight, Zod does not know how to fly. Have
Yeah.
you caught on to that? Because in that first encounter where they ran at each other, he ran.
Yeah.
Superman was the one flying. And granted, his hop, skip, and jump is pretty bad compared to us, but he's still hop, skipping, and jumping.
Yeah. Also, R.I.P. Jack. Sorry, boss man. Should have left when Bruce told you to.
I would love a version of this movie where the only difference is interweaving Batman's little arc in here.
Yeah.
Even though it would not make sense having been in this movie twice. Like, who is this guy?
LexCorp. Trucking. Oh, he looks back, he's like, oh, well, ooh.
I should have stopped it.
Didn't see that coming.
Gets punched for it.
I love how the punches are mixed up between, like, sending him, like, 400 feet back or just moving their face a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's part to how prepared you are to block the blow.
Yeah.
And again, notice lack of flight. How does Zod get up to him?
And again, he's laying out the end of the movie for you. Someone's gonna have to die.
Yep.
You can't just throw him in the Phantom Zone prison that he didn't know how to create.
No.
You can't throw him into the sun; he'd only get stronger. You can't throw him out in space; so he'd come back. You'd have to kill him. Also, a little bit of humor here.
The days without incident thing.
It's funny.
And they say there's no humor.
One of the most terrifying moments of the movie.
And if this was a Marvel film, as he was snapping Zod's neck, he would have said, "Yes, I was trained on a farm."
I know how to wrestle a pig. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Oh, man. Touche. Great pajamas.
I love his symbol is different.
I would actually really dig some General Zod pajamas.
Those are really cool. Also, other Matrix reference.
Yes.
Besides Henry Lennox, that's his name. Sorry, Henry, if that's not your name. But this is a beefed up daytime version of the final Smith-Neo fight.
He's doing the Superman thing again.
And I think that's really cool. I think Snyder, pretty self-consciously took some elements and made it his own.
Yeah. Again, good use of snap zooms. Love the imagery of using Metropolis as a battleground. I'm sorry, there's a reason these things
capes.
keep happening in cities.
Yeah.
Because it's awesome to watch. Also, Zod threw him.
He didn't fly through those on his own. And also, he's going to try to take Zod out of Metropolis.
Yep. And now that Zod is flying...
Yeah, look, he's going to throw him out. By the way, this is his strategy also with Doomsday.
Yes, he takes him up.
Well, I guess, Zod again, but... Only thing that happens with this is that Wayne pays for it. Wayne Enterprises pays for it.
Yeah, twice. The building and the satellite. How they do not take a significant stop.
I love that scene because it's in BVS.
Yeah.
Also, I love how this fight wasn't incredibly long.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a real fight that way.
But the great thing about that is, even though it wasn't long, it felt satisfying nonetheless.
Yes. Because the real fight had already been won.
Right. And again, Zod is forcing him into a situation where he has to make the decision to continue allow this to happen or to end it.
Also, that family, they get a lot of crap for not moving, but people don't always make optimal decisions in times of great stress.
And
those people are scared.
I would move towards the light beams of doom either.
They're scared, and they're in the middle of a terrorist attack. They might make a poor decision.
Yeah.
Also, Zod had to die.
Yes. There's only one moral decision to make here. I'm sorry. The best thing he could have done is killed Zod.
Not just self-defense; it's planetary defense. And this yell here from Henry is just heart-wrenching.
Yes.
You can see Lois is heartbreaking as well for him.
This is the second time she's had to deal with Kryptonian bodies walking in.
Poor Lois. She's the key. And to see like
making jumpsuits great again. Sorry.
No, she. It's important to see like Superman needs this kind of like care from somebody. Like it's not always like the big, strong.
He's the
man
vulnerable
in the room.
one here.
Yeah, he's very vulnerable.
Man, such a great moment. And
this isn't the only time he'll destroy a drone in the DCEU.
In a desert. And the military's pissed about it. Swanwick in particular.
They could have just asked Lex and he would have told him. They're setting up the next movie with that dialogue.
Yep.
And Lex understands this already, which is why BVS unfolds the way it does.
It's funny because he gives Swanwick a mission to convince Washington of his goodness. And in BVS, we have a monument to Superman in Heroes Park.
Mm-hmm.
And Swanwick has a promotion.
Yeah, I think he absolutely fulfills his mission.
Yeah. See, humor. Well done humor, too.
We all feel that way, Captain. We all feel that way.
and this remarkable continuity, because this is basically the same place we see in BVS at its end.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's 100% the same location, but boy, does it feel like it.
Yeah, it's very much foreshadowing, and like it feels heavier, like watching it now.
Yeah.
After seeing BVS.
And this right here. I'm glad we didn't get this earlier in the film. I'm glad we're getting it now.
I'm glad we're hearing it again. He said it earlier, but his father's always believed that he would become a hero. Right. He gave him the choice, but he knew what was inside of his son, that propensity to help people.
Yeah. And notice he's not looking at Martha. He's looking at Clark.
And Clark is looking at his dad. This movie is about dads.
Yeah. Man. Just good stuff. Great stuff.
I love to see this part in the trailer.
The Superman pose.
I'm glad there's that little touch right there.
Yeah. And I love Martha's line here about Jonathan having seen it.
Yes. And this is the beginning of the Clark Kent persona.
Yeah.
And again, as a comics fan, I just felt my soul rise when I saw the Daily Planet and walking in, and you're not seeing the face yet. You just.
It's funny, we don't get the face until he's got the glasses on.
And people say, oh, it went too fast after the massacre. Well, after 9/11, New York did go back to business. And we also don't know how much
time has passed between the two scenes.
Come on, Lombard. Do better than that. Look at him. Clark is so forgettable. You can look right past him. He's not standing out from anybody.
Yeah. Also, this
little line. Perfect.
It is. Wraps up a great film. In my opinion, the greatest comic book movie origin story of all time.
And that smile from Superman at the end.
Smile?
A smile.
You don't say. So
that's the end of the movie. Do you want to take like a minute and just have really, really brief thoughts?
Yeah. I think that's definitely worth it. Man, it was great being able to do commentary with you on this movie. It's one of my favorites. I've seen it a million times, and it's still good.
It might get better every time I watch it. And I think I learned something just talking about it with you.
Yeah, I learned a lot as well. And it was great to see insights that we noticed and were able to pass on not only to each other but hopefully to anybody listening. Man, just great film.
I can't get over how much I like it. I go back and forth in my mind whether or not I like it more than BVS or less.
Yeah,
but
here.
Just as a sci-fi fantasy movie, I don't find like there's anything like it in the entire realm of comic book movies.
No, I mean it is an origin story in the very traditional sense, but what they did with it was so unique, so very stylized in a visceral, visual way that just very philosophical, very to the heart of the character and to the heart of the universe even. It's already establishing the DCEU in ways that we don't get in the MCU, and I'm not meaning it as a slam, but just the instead of what they would later do in BVS where we get snippets of other things, instead they establish the soul of this universe first.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good way to put it. Like, Superman is the foundation of the DCEU. And not just in the way that Iron Man is in the MCU or Wolverine is in the Fox series.
Yeah.
I think Superman defines what it means to be a hero. And so when they explore that question in Man of Steel, that idea of choice and goodness and humanity having the capacity to be good, I think they're telling us this is what heroism is going to look like in the DCEU from now to the end of time.
It's not always pretty, it's not always unquestioned, but it is always self-sacrificing and heroic.
And that's beautiful. Like it's what did his mother say? The truth about you is beautiful.
The truth about this film is beautiful if people are willing to accept it.
Yeah, so like that's what you have to do with this. Look, this isn't the Reeve Superman. It's not even the Brandon Routh Superman or Ruth, whatever.
And
it's
they both
it's
have their merits.
They absolutely do. Like actually, I can defend Superman Returns on some levels. It's not as bad as it was made out to be. It's not great, but there's a lot to like about it.
Yeah, they just played it a little safe, and according to some, Man of Steel took a little too much risk, but I really don't think it did because I don't know. This was just a heavier version of what I remember Superman the Animated Series feeling like to me. It's inspirational.
Yeah, like I'm genuinely inspired by this Superman. Like I would think to myself, if I lived in this universe, what would Superman do?
Oh man, I'd be a major fan.
Yeah,
I'd be a fanboy. I'd follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, yes, I would also get back on Instagram to follow his exploits. Man, I love the DCU and I love Man of Steel, and I think I love the DCU because Man of Steel told me what a comic book movie could be like.
I agree, and honestly, I can pinpoint what first attracted me to Man of Steel was the early trailers, the two trailers with the dialogue of Jonathan Kent and Jor-El, depending on which trailer you watched, which teaser you watched, was overlaid with music from Lord of the Rings. And looking back, that is perfect choice because Lord of the Rings is also about hope in the face of impossible odds, insurmountable evils, and yet nonetheless persevering. And so the tone is very much the same. And no one discredits Lord of the Rings for having a tone of hope, even though there's a lot of despair in it. But that's what gives hope its potency and its true power. And
that's really well said. It's powerful. Like, I can actually say the exact same thing. I remember thinking to myself, I've been a Superman fan all my life. When I saw those trailers and heard those words from Jor-El and Pa Kent with these two different visions of Superman, I remember thinking, finally, a movie that takes Superman as seriously as he should be taken. He is the greatest superhero in all of comic book history, and I'm glad that someone had the courage to look at him honestly and seriously, and to really put on his virtues on display for everyone to see. And maybe everyone doesn't appreciate it yet. I think they will in time. But
in time, they will join us in the
sun. They will join us in the sun. But we will accomplish wonders for the DCEU. But yeah, like I love the DCEU because the foundation of it is so strong now. Like, if you want to be a superhero, you're going to be like Superman, and that's fascinating to me. Like, Wonder Woman is inspired by Superman. The Suicide Squad is necessary because Superman isn't there. Justice League will be about people getting together because they don't have Superman anymore. Metahumans having to, what does Man of Steel answer say? Approximate Superman's power. It's all about Superman now.
Yeah, it really is. Man of Steel was about the revelation that there is a Superman. BVS set out to explore whether or not there should be or must be a Superman. And then Suicide Squad and Justice League are saying they're about the vacancy of Superman. What is this world like without him anymore? What have we taken for granted? Now, granted, I don't think Suicide Squad explored it very well.
Yeah.
But I think Justice League will, up to the point where Superman comes back. And I think I'm really excited. I don't know how they're going to pull off his revival, and I don't care if there's an explanation as to why. I assume it's the sun.
Yeah, so some Kryptonian shenanigans.
But that's not the important part. To me, the important part is that he's back and getting the reactions of humanity from that. And I just can't wait. Even Batman's response to this is going to be interesting to me.
I'm going to say this. Like, I'm talking about Man of Steel in the context of EVS.
Yeah.
No. I'm trying to follow up what you're saying. The story of Superman would be tragic if we didn't have Justice League coming out this year, because even though his death is a good and courageous death, it's a given meaning. And it's his own reward in a sense. I think Justice League really allows us to appreciate Superman from multiple perspectives, because if his death, and this is the way they're showing it, if his death really leads to the creation of Justice League and they're all inspired by his example, that's huge. We will have an entire universe based around people respecting heroism and sacrifice from a person who, quite frankly, didn't have to sacrifice.
It's actually what the Dark Knight trilogy promised, and we never got to actually see the fruits of. You know, the idea of inspiring people out of apathy and into action to do what's right for their world. And I love that angle of the Dark Knight trilogy, but all we got in the end was a statue reveal and the promise that, he inspired people. You know?
Yeah, I think Man of Steel and BVS together, again, Superman's story would have been a tragedy without Justice League, but instead we are going to get to see that inspiration.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm off, I'll be sorry, but I think the rest of the DCEU is going to be about exploring heroism from Superman's perspective. Batman obviously won't be Superman, but that'll actually be to his loss, as we saw in BVS. When Superman inspires Batman, he's great, and when he deviates from that, he's wrong. So I think that'll go down the line for every superhero, and even to some degree some of the villains as well.
Yeah,
as Suicide Squad showed us. Yeah,
to bring up one thing, to deviate a bit, there's a great line in the Injustice comics when the Injustice storyline's about a corrupt Superman who is broken by the death of Lois Lane and her unborn child, and he kills Joker and is confronting Batman, and Batman is firing back at him. He's like, "You shouldn't have done this," and Superman's like, "Well, you would have done the same thing in my position," and Batman's like, "You're right, I would have, but you are supposed to be better."
And I think Superman is.
Yeah.
I think Man of Steel showed us that Superman is.
Right.
He is that moral paragon in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, he had every reason to leave humanity aside. Every single reason in the world. But he saw the good in people, and he worked at bringing it out, and he was willing to sacrifice himself, not just in BVS, but in Man of Steel. He was willing to go up against insurmountable odds. He was willing to fight against his home planet and his home planet's technology. That's the most heartening part to me, that Superman saw in humanity something worth fighting his own people for.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's the thing too, he was willing to lose himself and his life, but he's not willing to lose Earth. That's key. I think. Well, Lois is the key, but
yeah, no, that's
apart from Lois
yes.
being the key, that's key to understanding the heroism we're talking about here, and the heroism that Man of Steel explored so beautifully. And I love that it, even though it's a destructive third act, it ended on an optimistic, upbeat note of, well, we can do better, and we are going to do better, and this is a new dawning of an era of heroes.
That's something Wonder Woman says in the Justice League trailer. I thought the era of heroes would never come again, but Superman showed that it was here, and I think that's the optimistic message at the end of Man of Steel, because I think it's hard to get past the idea that there's this destruction in the last act, and part of Metropolis is utterly devastated. Not as much as some people say, but there's still some devastation there.
But they honor it.
Yeah, they honor it. They honor it particularly in BVS. But in Man of Steel, the ending is kind of happy, and people are like, well, why is there happiness? Because there's destruction there. Here's the thing.
They lived, man.
Yeah. No, and besides that's important. Like, I think that's really important. But I think it's also important to point out that Superman deciding to throw in his lot with humans over aliens, that's a huge deal. And that's incredibly hopeful. The person who could kill every single human being on Earth deciding to fight his own people and to sacrifice his own life, to put his entire life at risk for the mixed bag of humans he met, that means that he is giving humanity his vote of confidence. And that's incredibly big. That's the optimistic message at the end of Man of Steel. And I think even people that love the movie sometimes kind of gloss over that.
Yeah.
And they'll just say, they addressed it in BVS or something. But no, the end of Man of Steel is that the person with the most to gain or to lose by treating humanity as pawns instead decides to cast in his lot with them. That's an incredibly big deal, and that's why Man of Steel is so optimistic to me.
Yeah, me too. And I think anybody that didn't get inspired or understand an optimist, they were just too caught up in the visuals of that last act, the third act, and even the Battle of Smallville. But
final thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like this is a tarnished treasure. It is a beautiful film that has a reputation it does not deserve. I think in time, this will become better received in the future. I think a lot of our generation's kids are going to come back to these films at some point and go, what were y'all talking about? This is great, and
yeah.
I think posterity will be kind to this film. But even if it's not, I'm going to be kind to it now, because it's just great. It's inspired me many times. It's inspired what we're doing here.
That's beautifully said, Ryan. I'll just add my 2 cents. Man of Steel to me is an almost perfect film. It's visually stimulating. It is morally enlightening. Thematically, it is impressive to me. I think the ideas of family, of fatherhood, of choice and decision, of civilization rot, and stewarding of natural resources, colonialism. I think the movie explores all of them with a subtlety and insight that is very, very rarely brought up, very rarely appreciated, and very rarely stated. Mm-hmm. For me, Man of Steel is the best shared universe origin that I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Precisely because it focuses so firmly on explaining the characterization of a superhero and of a hero in general. Yeah. And the fact that it does that so well, so firmly, and so seriously. Again, the seriousness of this movie is what makes it great to me. It takes these ideas seriously. It isn't just a throwaway thing for Superman to announce himself as an alien, or for aliens to visit Earth. This entire project is wrapped in seriousness and soberness that sets it apart. And for me, I'm always going to be grateful. I'm grateful to Zack Snyder for making this film. I'm grateful for Henry Cavill, David S. Goyer, and Amy Adams, who I want to call Lois Lane. I'm grateful to the cast and the writers.
Shannon.
Yeah, Michael Shannon. And the villainry here is spectacular as well. Michael Shannon really sold his villain as not just a physical threat, but as an intellectual and cultural threat to Superman and Jor-El. And I think
that's what constitutes a good villain.
That constitutes a good villain. And great villains make great films. So for me, top to bottom, Man of Steel is a classic. And people that hate it, I get it. You and I disagree. I think you're wrong. But I get it, you disagree. Reasonable minds will have different opinions on this. But for me, I'm always going to be in love with this film.
Yep.
So, I'm Keifer.
And I'm Ryan.
And thank you for tuning in for the first ever Article Asylum commentary.
Feel free to comment and visit us at www.articleasylum.com.